On July 3, 1988, a US warship violated Iran's territorial waters near Hengam Island as part of the Washington-led campaign to force Tehran to accept the terms of a UN resolution to end the imposed war. The imposed war was initially started by Saddam's tyrannical regime on September 22, 1980, after the Iraqi dictator, who was encouraged by the US government and Saudi Arabia to invade Iran in a bid to conquer the country in less than a week. After almost 8 years of bolstering Saddam and Western supporters of the Iraqi dictator and Arab financiers of him were now trying to coerce Tehran to accept a UN resolution which denied identifying Baghdad as the aggressor party which initiated the war. Iran accordingly was reluctant to accept the resolution as, number one, the initiator was not identified. Number two, there were still some Iranian territories under Iraqi occupation. Before entering Iran's territorial waters, USS Vincennes had dispatched its SH-60B Seahawk helicopter to Iranian coasts, hovering over Iranian gunboats off the coastline. The helicopter was fired at and ran away. Angered with the humiliating escape of the chopper from the scene, the American warship's captain, William C. Rogers III, took revenge from a passenger plane flying over the Strait of Hormuz. Flight IR-655, with 290 passengers, civilian passengers on board, including 66 children, became a victim of the American captain's aggressiveness. The event is remembered by Iranians as an appalling crime against humanity. George H.W. Bush, the then Vice President of the United States in the Reagan administration, defended the brutal act of his fellow countrymen and promised to never apologize for the United States.
I'll never apologize for the United States of America, ever. I don't care what the facts are. I will lead her. I will do my level best to stand up for freedom and democracy around the world by keeping the United States of America strong and by keeping our eyes wide open.
Despite the mistakes made in the downing of the plane, the crew of USS Vincennes were awarded combat action ribbons for completion of their tours in combat zone. In 1990, Rogers was awarded the Legion of Merit for exceptionally meritorious conduct in the performance of outstanding service as commanding officer from April 1987 to May 1989. The Newsweek later in 1992 described the horrific event and American officials' reactions afterwards as a naval fiasco. Commemorating the 3rd anniversary of the savage act of US warship, leader of the Islamic Revolution, Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei, said in 1991, "You hit a plane with some 300 passengers, then you say, 'We made a mistake?' How dare you make such a mistake? What does it mean, you made a mistake?" After Iran accidentally downed the Ukrainian passenger plane on January 8, 2020, some anti-Tehran figures quoted the leader's swearing words against the US crime to project the two as similar human errors. But the fact is that there are fundamental differences between what happened in Iran on January 8, 2020, and the US downing of the passenger plane in 1988. The Ukrainian aircraft was shot down by a Tor-M1 surface-to-air missile, which is much less sophisticated than the American missile and radar system used against IR-655. The operator of Tor-M1 battery made a mistake and did not ask for permission before firing the missile. He is now under arrest and being interrogated for possible links with American sabotage teams in Iran. Iran accepted the mistake and officially apologized, while the US didn't offer an apology for downing IR-655. The Aegis system software used by Vincennes was the most advanced radar and engagement system of the US Navy in 1988, capable of tracking up to 200 incoming enemy aircrafts or missiles, while the Tor-M1 battery is equipped with an engagement system which does not show the size of the flying object, its altitude, or its status. It just shows the position to the operator ready for firing, and the operator is not allowed to fire before receiving the order from the chain of command. The other fundamental difference is that the US Vincennes was illogically and purposelessly engaged with Iranian gunboats, and there was no need to violate Iran's territorial waters to make such a mistake. American professor James Henry Fitzer said in an interview in 2015 that it is impossible to believe that USS Vincennes was incapable of distinguishing between an F-14 fighter jet and an Airbus. If we are unable to discern the difference between an airliner in terms of its trajectory, its speed, and its relative location and relation to the ship, then we must be amongst the most incompetent navies in the history of the world. An attacking plane approaching the Vincennes at high speed would be clearly discernible from an Airbus transporting passengers on a commercial route, Professor Fetzer added. The other important point is that the Tehran 1 operator mistook the Ukrainian passenger plane with the cruise missile, which both have a similar speed range. But there is a huge difference between the speed of an attacking, descending F-14 and ascending Airbus A300.